Welcome to Global West. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. A tariff is a tax placed on goods that are brought into a country from abroad. Governments use tariffs as a tool to regulate trade, and they can have far-reaching effects on the economy. When a tariff is imposed, it directly increases the cost of imported products, making them less competitive compared to items made domestically. This means that foreign products like electronics, clothing, or cars often become more expensive for consumers. Shoppers may notice higher price tags on items that used to be more affordable, and businesses that rely on imported materials may also face increased costs. The idea behind tariffs is to encourage people to buy goods made within their own country. By making imports pricier, tariffs aim to protect local industries and preserve jobs for American workers. This can help boost domestic manufacturing and support communities that depend on these industries. However, there's a downside. Tariffs can lead to higher prices on everyday items, from groceries to household electronics and even cars. Companies often pass these extra costs on to consumers, making it harder for families to stretch their budgets. When the U.S. imposes tariffs, other countries may respond by placing their own tariffs on American goods. This back and forth can escalate into trade wars, which disrupt global supply chains, hurt exporters, and create uncertainty for businesses and workers alike. For every industry that benefits from protection, another may suffer. American farmers, for example, can lose access to overseas markets, leaving crops unsold and incomes uncertain. Families may find themselves paying more at the store, and small businesses can struggle to keep up with rising costs. The debate over tariffs is complex, involving questions about how best to protect American jobs while avoiding the risk of higher prices and international disputes. Lawmakers, economists, and everyday citizens all have different perspectives on what's best for the country. Understanding this trade-off is crucial, especially in light of the Supreme Court's recent decision on President Trump's tariff plan. The ruling has significant implications for how trade policy is shaped and who ultimately feels its effects. Tariffs aren't just abstract policy, they have real, tangible impacts on businesses trying to stay afloat, workers hoping to keep their jobs, and families managing their household budgets. The stakes are high, and the consequences ripple through every corner of the economy, affecting everything from Wall Street to Main Street, and shaping the financial future of millions of Americans. In April 2025, the Trump administration unveiled the Liberation Day tariffs, a sweeping tax on imports from key trading partners. The goal: protect American manufacturing and pressure other nations into better trade deals. The administration argued that foreign supply chains made the U.S. vulnerable, and tariffs would bring jobs back home. Critics warned the tariffs would disrupt supply chains and drive up costs. Since many targeted components aren't made in the U.S., the administration used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act (IEEPA) to bypass Congress and impose the tariffs directly. This aggressive use of IEEPA became the heart of the legal battle that followed. The question: does the president have the power to reshape trade policy alone? Legal challenges to the Liberation Day tariffs came fast, led by small and mid-sized businesses dependent on imports. They argued that only Congress, not the president, can regulate commerce and levy taxes. The Court of International Trade sided with the businesses, ruling that IEEPA wasn't meant for broad, long-term economic policy. The government appealed, but another federal court also ruled against the administration. Despite these rulings, the tariffs stayed in place, squeezing businesses as the legal fight dragged on. The business coalition pushed the Supreme Court to take the case quickly, citing daily economic harm. Conflicting lower court decisions and national stakes made Supreme Court review inevitable. The fate of the tariffs and a core constitutional question now rested with the nation's highest court. The legal journey had reached its most critical stage. On August 23, 2025, the Supreme Court issued a dramatic injunction, halting President Trump's tariffs nationwide. The court's majority argued that using IEEPA for sweeping tariffs threatened the constitutional balance of power, sidelining Congress. The justices cited the immediate harm to businesses and consumers, saying the economic damage was too great to ignore. The dissent warned the court was overstepping into foreign policy, but the majority's decision stood. The halt brought instant relief to struggling companies, but left the final constitutional question unresolved. The ruling sent a clear message: even in emergencies, presidential power has limits. the economic landscape shifted overnight. Supporters of Trump's tariffs argued they were necessary to protect American jobs and industries from unfair foreign competition. They believed that by imposing tariffs on imported goods, the government could give American manufacturers a much-needed edge, allowing them to compete on a more level playing field. Many saw these measures as a way to push back against countries accused of dumping cheap products into the U.S. market, undercutting domestic producers and threatening the livelihoods of American workers. Proponents claimed tariffs would revive struggling sectors like steel and aluminum, industries that had seen significant job losses over the years. They argued that reducing reliance on foreign goods would not only strengthen the economy, but also enhance national security by ensuring critical materials were produced at home. For many, tariffs were a symbol of economic patriotism and a bold step toward restoring American manufacturing might. For these supporters, tariffs represented a fight to restore lost manufacturing jobs, revitalize entire communities, and reclaim America's industrial leadership. They believed that protecting domestic industries was essential for the country's long-term prosperity and independence. Critics, including small businesses and major corporations, countered that tariffs would raise costs for everyone, disrupt carefully built supply chains, and spark retaliatory trade wars with key partners. They warned that these policies could make it harder for American companies to compete globally, especially those that rely on imported materials or sell products overseas. Detractors cautioned that higher prices would hit American families at the checkout line, making everyday goods more expensive. Farmers in particular feared losing vital export markets as other countries responded with their own tariffs, putting their livelihoods at risk and threatening rural economies. The debate exposed a deep divide in the nation. Should the U.S. protect domestic industries even if it means higher consumer costs and possible global backlash? Or should it embrace open trade and risk further job losses in traditional sectors? The question touched every corner of the economy, from factory floors to family dinner tables. Both sides agreed on one thing. The stakes for the American economy were enormous, with millions of jobs, entire industries, and the nation's global standing hanging in the balance. The Supreme Court's intervention forced the nation to confront these trade-offs head-on, bringing the debate out of the factories and boardrooms and into the highest court in the land. The outcome would not only determine the future of U.S. trade policy, but also set a precedent for how America balances economic security, global competition, and the interests of its people for years to come. The Supreme Court's halt brought immediate relief to businesses facing soaring costs from the tariffs. Companies that import parts could now stabilize prices and protect jobs, at least temporarily. For consumers, the halt eased inflationary pressure. Families saw fewer price hikes on everyday goods. Retailers paused planned price increases, and industries regained some certainty for future planning. But the relief is temporary. The legal fight isn't over, and uncertainty lingers. Many businesses remain cautious, unsure if tariffs will return. Investment and hiring decisions are on hold until the legal and political dust settles. The halt averted a crisis but didn't resolve the underlying questions. The future of American trade and your wallet still hangs in the balance. The story is far from over. With the injunction in place, the legal battle now returns to the appellate courts, where judges will weigh the far-reaching implications of presidential power over trade. Their decision will not only determine the immediate fate of the contested policy, but could also set a precedent for how much authority future presidents have to shape America's economic relationships with the world. Meanwhile, Congress may now step in, debating whether to reform the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, and reclaim more direct control over trade policy. Lawmakers are considering new checks and balances, aiming to ensure that no single branch of government can unilaterally disrupt global commerce or impact American businesses without oversight. The outcome of these debates and court decisions could fundamentally reshape the balance of power between Congress and the White House for years to come, influencing how the United States navigates future economic challenges and international disputes. Across the country, businesses and workers remain in limbo, anxiously watching for new policy shifts that could once again upend supply chains, alter prices, and affect their livelihoods. For many, the uncertainty is a reminder of how deeply government decisions can ripple through everyday life. The Supreme Court's intervention has sparked a national conversation about the limits of executive authority and America's evolving role in the global economy. Legal scholars, business leaders, and ordinary citizens alike are debating what powers the president should have in times of economic crisis. How these critical questions are answered will affect not just trade, but the very structure of American government, shaping the relationship between its branches and the rights of its citizens for generations. The price of goods, the fate of entire industries, and the future of presidential power are all at stake. Every American, from factory workers to consumers, will feel the impact of these decisions in their daily lives. As the nation waits for answers, one thing is clear. The next chapter in America's trade story is just beginning, and its outcome will help define the country's path in a rapidly changing world.